Good morning. I'm Victoria Allen, Head of Marketing at Ascertia, and I would like to thank you all for joining this live webinar, which is a joint initiative between Ascertia, Airbus and Renaissance. So in this session, the panel will discuss the benefits of digital signing in the aviation industry. We're just going to wait a minute or so just for a few others to join. So just while we're doing that, I'll go through some quick housekeeping for today's session. So today's webinar is being recorded and a copy of the recording will be made available after the session. If you have a question, please click the Q&A button and the team will answer as many as possible. Otherwise, please email marketing@ascertia and we'll come back to you. So I'll just leave it a minute or so, and then we'll get started. Okay, so if you've just joined us, good morning and welcome to this live webinar. I'm delighted to introduce you to today's speakers. Could we just roll the deck to the speaker slide? So firstly, we've got Michael Conway, Founding Director at Renaissance. Michael has over 35 years of experience and expertise in the security and technology sector. And Michael will be introducing the session very shortly and will be participating in today's roundtable. And we also have Mike Hathaway, Chief Product Officer at Ascertia. Mike is a seasoned PKI specialist with over 20 years of experience. And today, Mike will be giving a short presentation focusing on how digital trust is the foundation to digital business. And we have Adrian Walker. Adrian is Senior Sales Manager here at Ascertia and will be moderating the roundtable discussion today. And finally, we're delighted to welcome Fatih Murat. Fatih leads the Digital Trust Solutions and Industrial Cyber Security teams at Airbus and is joining us today as a trusted advisor to discuss the benefits of digital signatures in this highly regulated industry. So just want to extend a big welcome to all our panel and say thank you for taking time to join us today. And I'll now hand over to Michael to start the session.
Good morning. And thank you very much for joining the session. Delighted to be on this session. Michael Conway is my name of Renaissance. Renaissance, we are a leading IT security and compliance distributor in Ireland. And it's, excuse me, we're in business for over 35 years at this stage, actually. So it's our delight to work with a variety of companies and technology companies and to look to bring the required security compliance technologies to the marketplace that assist people in running their day-to-day businesses, ensuring that they can actually transform their businesses and develop their businesses going forward, if you like. Our relationship with Ascertia has been a long-term trusted relationship. And we worked with Ascertia for quite a number of years at this stage. And our focus is to actually find organizations who can deliver the technologies that our customers and the Irish economy, if you like, and the Irish people need, and the Irish infrastructure needs, to find organizations that can deliver those services, can deliver those technologies, and can deliver them effectively and well, and actually also, very importantly, deliver them into the time zones that may be required from an Irish perspective, whether they be local time zones or into global time zones, depending on the industry. So we worked with Ascertia for quite a number of years. They're an incredible company with proven success internationally, in fact, globally, I would say. They've accreditations across industries and authorities, and they're very, very agile and responsive. And we find agility and response to be something that's really important in terms of working with our customers and our partners to deliver the right sort of solutions, because everybody has requirements, but requirements vary and differ over a period of time. And we need that agility and responsiveness to make sure that you get the best value. The air transport sector in Ireland is a very interesting sector. like all good sectors in Ireland, and like all good stats, it probably doesn't have the best stats available, the best set of information. But with the general information that is available, and excluding the air leasing space, we have over 140,000 jobs supported by the sector. And it's a 20.6 billion gross value contribution to the GDP. And we all know that with airlines and with air transport, we're in good shape, and with none of it, we're not in good shape, as we've seen in the last number of years. And it's really important, and it's really important to the Irish economy. And you know, the transformation and the modernisation of that business is really important. What we've also seen is from a cyber resiliency in aviation point of view, there's been quite there's been a big focus on this. The World Economic Forum reports show the cybersecurity failure is one of the highest likelihood risks in the next 10 years. It's right up there on the top of everybody's risk register. It's right up there on the top of everybody's concerns, threats not just to tactical operations, but also to the strategic long-term future of organizations. So you can see they're just taking a quote there from Deloitte, from Brian Terry. The bottom line: in order for the aviation industry to prosper and realize the digital dividends of the fourth industrial revolution, which marries physical assets and advanced digital technology such as the IoT, the artificial intelligence, cyber resilience needs to be embedded in the aviation business culture and operating model. So cyber resilience, cyber protection, cyber security has to be embedded within the organizations. So that's my brief introduction. I'd like to pass back to Vicky, who will handle on from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. That was a fantastic introduction. Mike, let's now hand over to you, and we're going to find out a little bit more about how digital trust underpins digital business. So over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Victoria. Excuse me, and good morning, everybody. Great to be here. So I'm Chief Product Officer here at Ascertia, responsible for, I guess, product innovation, roadmap, and how we produce products that customers, partners, etc., can leverage to secure digital infrastructures and digital business. And that's going to be the focus of my presentation here today, is how digital trust is foundation to digital business. So I guess this slide I think I've used on a number of occasions, and some of you who've been regular participants in our webinars will probably be familiar with, but this kind of goes to show that businesses have been increasingly leveraging technology and service providers to transform and support online processes versus traditional ways of working. And I think the global pandemic has seen organizations with long-term digital transformation plans and aspirations realize these far, far sooner. And so these will include things like, I guess, cloud adoption and migration, the transformation of organizations hosting servers and applications within their own data centers, pushing these out and moving these to cloud providers who can deliver global offerings to aid digital business and reduce footprint and help streamline data processing. You've got obviously mobility to support remote working, which has been essential on the run up to and during the pandemic, but this enables the workforce to be working from anywhere. And like most people, myself included, I'm kind of working from home, but that gives a huge support to the industry and to all of the workers that are having to continue on their jobs throughout the pandemic. With connected devices within the home business, there's a huge growth. More and more intelligent devices and applications have proliferated our places of business and our homes that have created many, many unique new use cases over the course of the last few years, both to consumers but also to business processes. Online data flows with everyone shifting to remote working, shifting to cloud providers. There's a vast amount of data that's out there being exchanged between these providers, and that has to be delivered securely, not just between providers, but down to the consumer that's either in a place of business in a physical office or that are working from home. And then from an IoT, and DevSecOps, there's a huge collection of applications and devices out there, but you need to ensure that every endpoint that's in a particular flow is offered good security between each of the endpoints, and quite essentially that can be fully automated to ensure service continuity. So as we look at this list of common challenges, you need to ask the question, what's the prime implication of this the evaporation of the traditional business perimeter with the digitization of business processes. We're no longer reliant on the physical security of our offices as we shift to online. Employees consume accounts, applications, and data from a variety of interconnected providers, and we need to be able to trust identity even more than before. The value or sensitivity of the information in business hasn't declined. Quite the opposite, but the barriers and air gaps that might have protected it previously have changed. Trusted identity is more essential now than ever before, and organizations rely upon that identity to conduct digital business. But what underpins digital business? What makes an online transaction secure? And what provides users with the assurance they need to know that they're transacting with a genuine organization, financial institution, perhaps an online retailer? In order to conduct digital business, you need digital trust. But what is digital trust, I can hear you say? Well, put simply, digital trust is relying on a trusted third party to vouch for an identity being used online to provide you with assurance that the business, person, or service using the identity is who they claim to be. In the physical world, I guess kind of the examples here, you can relatively easily verify the existence of a business because you can visit their premises, you can see company representatives, and in most cases, pay for and walk away with a purchase. Or if this is a business meeting, you can go to someone's office, you can meet face-to-face with the person or the people with whom you intend to meet. Fairly simple. Conversely, in the digital world, none of this is possible. You can't physically visit any place of business, you can't touch any assets. This makes it easy for a digital business to be created that may look like a reputable brand, but instead is a fake digital storefront that's been concocted or created for fraudulent activities. So in the digital world, you cannot rely on the visual inspection of a digital storefront, a website, or any other asset that you might be presented with, even down to receiving an email that's branded. It looks exactly like the brand you expect to converse with, but how can you trust it? So digital trust is created by the issuance and management of digital identities. Secure digital identities require keys and certificates issued by a public key infrastructure or a trust infrastructure, and that's typically operated by a trusted service provider or by a centralized internal certificate and key and management team. Without digital identities, and PKI, you cannot conduct digital business. So in order to conduct digital business, this makes your trust infrastructure part of your critical infrastructure. Trust infrastructures provide digital identities which deliver digital trust and is the foundation of digital business. PKI is critical to digital business. So here's, I guess, a non-exhaustive list of examples of how areas of the aviation industry leverage digital identities to conduct digital business. So, E-enabled aircraft. This is providing security to the vital inner workings of onboard software and hardware, ensuring genuine components are being used and that they can communicate securely internally within the aircraft, and also providing onboard readings from all of the equipment back to ground control. Secure supply chain. This is probably an obvious one and is in evidence in other business areas, but this is ensuring that all exchanges between suppliers can validate documents, validate any signatures on documents that may have been exchanged, and these would be to authorize a transaction, exchange a purchase order, or sign an NDA, share a legal agreement that's been authorized. Design drawings, aircraft design, providing long-term security and the ability to archive designs, digitally signing designs that have reached the authored state, and then being able to, as I say, archive them into long-term evidential archival system, provide additional timestamps where necessary, and validate those long-term. And one that I think probably is solely focusing on borders, and one that I think people do tend to overlook, is border security. And that's the all-important providing border control representatives the ability to verify a genuine travel document to ensure that the holder is who they claim to be. And that could be via validating a signature on a first-generation passport, gaining access to the biometric on a second-generation passport, more recently being able to verify the signature on smart vaccination. Like most other businesses, the aviation industry will also be striving to e-enable and digitize existing business processes to be able to leverage digital trust across a variety of use cases that aren't being mentioned here. So with these examples and a few more that I'm sure you can think of in mind, let's now turn to a panel discussion with myself, Fatih Murat from Airbus, Michael Conway from Renaissance, that's going to be hosted by Adrian Walker, our sales manager. Adrian.
So thanks, Mike. Just again, a warm welcome from everybody here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us. We hope that this webinar is informative. Yeah, I'm going to be chairing the roundtable here, just making sure that we answer some of the pertinent questions. If you do have a question, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to type into that and submit the question. We'll do our best to put the question in. If we can't get it in, then we'll make sure it's answered as part of the follow-up after the webinar. Just before I get into questions, I'll maybe just ask Fatih to say a quick hello and maybe just quickly introduce himself. Please, Fatih.
Thank you, Adrian, and hello, everyone. Pleased to be here today and looking forward to have your questions and pleased to answer them.
Thank you. So I'm just going to open up with a few pertinent points and invite some introductions. So thanks again, Fatih, for joining. And, you know, it's been a challenging time for the aviation industry and many industries, of course, over the last number of years with COVID, epidemic and also the Ukraine conflict. I guess this has also meant a surge in bad actors looking to exploit companies. So where do you think the aviation industry is? You know, has it been given the necessary resources to allow companies to mitigate effectively against these challenges?
Thank you for the question, Adrian. So, well, such unpredictable or regrettable events are certainly challenges for most industries. And if you, for instance, take the pandemic into account, it indeed impacted the aviation at a great deal. Nonetheless, it also accelerated some digital capabilities as advantage, if we could take something positive out of that. Changes in the way of working, for instance, home offices, as Mike mentioned earlier, remote connections brought additional needs to protect and enable our businesses at the same time. So we most certainly in Airbus kept investing in the cybersecurity solutions, risk reductions, maybe more so in certain specific areas. Also, we have been increasing the number of our team members significantly, and we are still doing so. I believe aviation industry is returning with a very strong ramp up and with a greater focus on the cybersecurity capabilities. So I can certainly confirm that we have necessary focus and the growth in the area, yes.
Yeah, thank you. It's, as you mentioned, a challenging time, but it does look like aviation is really rebounding. Mike Hathaway, obviously, it's interesting to know how you feel as Chief Product Officer that Ascertia's technology can help support businesses navigating security requirements and risks. And maybe you can just talk a little to that and, you know, how challenges are mitigated by some Ascertia products on a daily basis?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question, Adrian. So I think it's fair to say that technology, it's only part of the puzzle. So Ascertia as a specialist technology vendor, and we like to think of ourselves as a trusted advisor to all of our customers and partners, you know, we continue to invest heavily in the development of all of our products, you know, ensuring that we comply with the latest standards. We're, you know, mitigating risk by implementing the latest cryptographic techniques. We're evaluating all of the existing and emerging use cases. So definitely things like the the global pandemic, the ability to work remotely has certainly introduced lots of challenges and introduced new use cases for a lot of customers and businesses that we deal with. But we also are investing in teams to support our customers and our partners. And every business knows that a lot of the best technology can be implemented badly. Over the years, I've seen a lot of certificate pumps that have been installed in a variety of businesses and industries across the world, and that's just someone in IT hitting next finished. Trusted technology to support security and mitigate security risk has to be implemented by a specialist provider. It needs to have policies and procedures wrapped around it. So absolutely, we're here to provide specialist technology. We're here to provide support, governance, and advice to support anybody that's implementing our technology, and to talk to industry as we're doing so today.
Yeah, and it's interesting on that point, Mike, the forward-looking nature of our business, right? It's not just about today, it's about what's down the road as well.
Absolutely. Security is always an arms race. So you do have to have that forward-looking, what's coming next? What do we do to mitigate these risks that we see in front of us and that are evolving?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I can just go back to Fatih. Fatih, you mentioned digital transformation as being very, very important, obviously, to Airbus and in the aviation industry. Maybe could you expand a little on that? And you spoke as well as about a gathering of pace of that transformation. I wonder if you could just give us a few minutes on that, please.
Yeah, of course, Adrian, once again, thanks for the question. It's a good one that persists over the last years in regards to the transformation on the digital. So as in any industry, also in aviation, corporate functions such as procurement, HR, finance, sales require solutions such as digital signature to be more cost efficient, faster, to be more collaborative. Now, when considering engineering, aircraft maintenance, or aircraft operations, most of these points also apply. Yet we do have maybe further challenges on making sure the compliance, data management, and security is more rigid and crucial for these areas. Now, Airbus also has a significant priority and effort on sustainability, green IT solutions as well. So we do big efforts in supporting environments with our products, with our aircrafts out there, but also while we are manufacturing them. Therefore, digital transformation is not really inevitable. It is really inevitable. The question is more about how fast and efficient we can enable it. Meanwhile, protect the business continuity and the resilience. This is more of a question for I believe, aviation industry.
Yeah. And certainly we're seeing, the rate of increase of transformation moving forward. And given the sensitive nature of the aviation industry itself in serving a lot of people, but also driving a lots of economy, it is particularly important that transformation gathers pace. I want to move just quickly to Mike now. Mike, we're just going to talk a little bit about a specific area of PKI, or a use case of PKI, e-signatures. And I wondered if you could expand on where you see some of the key gains that e-signatures can achieve for aviation.
Yeah, sure, Adrian, and thanks for the question. I mean, certainly, Fatih's already touched on some of those already. Can you imagine the amount of paperwork that's created through maintenance of a single aircraft, let alone a fleet of them by any individual operator? So certainly, this digitization effort can massively support I guess from a speed and efficiency perspective around in just that area, maintaining aircraft, the amount of checks and balances and forms and checklists that must be completed, I can't even begin to speculate and or imagine. So in that regard, the amount of information that's created as a result of maintaining aircraft, just solely on that area alone, you're going to gain a lot of speed and efficiency. There'll be significant cost savings. And not to mention the ability to hit green targets, reduction of paper, CO2, for example. And then you kind of have to multiply that across all of the other use cases that you might see from the aviation and the travel sector. So think about electronic ticketing. I don't remember the last time I was issued with a paper boarding pass. I used to have a desk drawer full of them many years ago. Now we've moved to e-ticketing. By the boarding pass being presented to you on a mobile phone. Sure, you can print them, but the whole delivery process has changed fundamentally. So I guess you'll end up, when you look at digitizing a process, when you look at using and leveraging an electronic signature, sure, you're going to be much more efficient. So you'll have faster time to market for new products and services. That's a bit of a given, and most industries, businesses will realize that. You get security and legislative compliance where it's needed, and somewhere as heavily regulated as aviation. You want to make sure that the aircraft is maintained, that all of the checks have been performed. It's an essential part of operating a fleet to ensure that everything is signed off appropriately. As I mentioned earlier, you have the requirement to digitally archive information and ensure that its integrity is maintained moving forward. So applying a signature when a particular document is signed off, and then refreshing its timestamp over the years. And when it comes to it, we all know that quantum resistant cryptography is a requirement. That's on everyone's agenda, making sure that there's a roadmap and the ability to refresh crypto and signatures and timestamps with quantum resistant crypto as and when it's realized by a technology provider. And then ensuring that all of the documents that are being processed are done so and stored securely. So I think there's certainly some distinguishable differences for aviation, but when you look at electronic business, digital business, and digital trust on the whole, I think a lot of the benefits that are being realized here are mostly applicable to a lot of heavily regulated businesses and industries.
Yeah, absolutely, and there is certainly some context across a lot of industries in the current situation. I'd like to maybe just put a final question to Fatih. Obviously, Airbus is a truly multinational and very, very advanced manufacturing operation. So perhaps you could just enlighten us a little on how Ascertia's technology is helping to support Airbus's evolving business needs, please.
Very good question, Adrian. Thank you very much. So as you mentioned, Airbus is truly a global company that has operations in every continent. And this means we need to operate at a global scale with a very high level of collaboration. Therefore, collaboration is a key for us. When you think of Ascertia technology, which we mainly utilize around the digital signature capabilities, Ascertia provides both on-premise and SAS platforms in order to build that link of collaboration that we require. It's a decision factor for Airbus in digital signature capabilities that we use. Ascertia technology also provides opportunity for all signature assurance levels compliant with the ADAS, yet also allows integration to private PKIs. For instance, it's a very key use case for us to have Airbus corporate PKI to be integrated into the solution. Further features such as smooth signing, as well as smart card signatures, also multi-factor authentications, as Mike also mentioned earlier, are options that are just meeting our needs. So to give a couple of examples, for instance, in the use cases that we do have, Ascertia solution has certainly been a great enabler in the collaboration inside and outside of Airbus with our suppliers, vendors, customers. Replacing our legacy solution, it simply brought a great, modern, efficient, and stable status to us. And we have seen a key benefit of it, for instance, with procurement operations in the last year or two, but also the impact of COVID. That was a great achievement. Digital signature is actually beyond just document signing for Airbus. It enables compliance with EASA regulations, for instance, EASA Form 1. It's a significant value for Airbus. It's a critical use case. It is implemented with Ascertia's on-premise solution, which is very rare to see these days, to have such capable solutions on-premise available. And it enables us also to make custom integrations to our in-house systems, like SAP, for instance. Looking further ahead in the use cases, for instance, also with engineering, we have a great demand in terms of large size documents to be signed, compliance to standards such as PDFA standards for long-term archiving, but also keeping the data on premise, where we have to ensure that the intellectual property or Airbus red data, so-called, to be maintained within Airbus. Ascertia has been a key enabler. Well, we are still bringing quite some challenging requirements to Ascertia, and it is my pleasure to mention the fact that collaboration, building aligned roadmaps to find solutions has been a really pleasant journey so far.
Thanks so much, Fatih. We look forward to continuing in developing the relationship as time goes on. Thank you. So, Michael, I'm going to just maybe give you a final question, and then I think we'll move to wrap up the webinar. Michael, so as you mentioned in your presentation, aviation is a very key component of how the Irish economy is progressing and recovering. How has Renaissance been able to assist in this?
Yeah, and thanks for the question, Adrian. Yeah, Renaissance, we work with quite a number of partners, industry partners, and also national regulators and other entities out there. And our role really is to try to bring these technologies to these people. And there's a couple of quick points, comments if I can make on Fatih's last remarks, which I thought were really interesting. As he says, Airbus is bringing more significant challenges to Ascertia, and I think that's the really important part of looking at this area from an Irish Inc. point of view. I think we need to be flexible, we need to be responsive, we need to be agile in terms of how we're addressing these things. I think the industry, in terms of the aviation industry, in terms of the core industry, is probably has its handle on where it's trying to go. I think there's probably a lot more can be done in some aspects of it. But I think in terms of, if you look at, for argument's sake, even passengers queuing for security and stuff like that, I think there's a lot more can be done from a digital point of view to make the journey and air transport a little bit more sort of easier, smooth, and a better experience for people. So I think the challenges that we would see in terms of the Irish marketplace and where Ireland is at this stage is to try to get those challenges, those sort of areas addressed. Organizations like Airbus, they know where they're trying to go. They're driving the technologies like Ascertia, they're driving yourselves forward. And they know what they're trying to achieve, and they're probably pushing the envelope, where I think some of the other organizations are keeping the envelope firmly closed and it has to be opened a little bit for them. And that's really our role, and that's what we're trying to do. And it's the education, the awareness, they're making people aware of the types of things that can be done out there to help you to make aviation not just a more important part, but a smoother part and a more integrated part. Because again, when I listen to what Fatih mentioned, he talks about collaboration, he talks about links, he talks about compliance, he talks about integration. They're all the things, and I think that's the real nub here. No man is an island in this. even though Ireland is an island, but no man is an island. It's not silo-based. You need to integrate with other, so you need a responsive organization. You need to sit down and work with somebody and identify what they're trying to achieve and where they can go. And that's really our role and our challenge for the next while. So that's pretty much where we are at this stage. In terms of the follow-up to this webinar, there will be a link sent with the recording to everybody who attended, and to fortunately there were a few people who were unable to attend at the last minute. So we'll send on that link, and we'd be delighted to have a conversation with anybody who has any questions, who would like to take that any further. Any questions, is that the email address there is marketing@ascertia.com. So if you want to raise any questions, if you have any questions at all, any thoughts, any comments, any considerations, please feel free to raise them to marketing@ascertia.com, or indeed any of the panelists at any stage. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, everyone. I'll now close the session. Thank you for joining.